button. Supposedly that's going to do it. I'm going to look over here and make sure that it does it for us here. I got my notes. I got my people. I am so excited. Okay. So let me make sure that we are up and running over here. It looks like we are. Fantastic. And then I'm going to get back to my Zoom over here so I can see you both. That's going to do it. I'm going to look over here and make sure that it does it for us. Turn the sound off there. Okay. Guys, we're live. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. So everybody joining us this week for So Ask Us, great to see you. We are being joined by Claudia and John from the Amherst Area Chamber of Commerce, fearless leader, marketing director. I'm sorry, I'm getting your titles so wrong because I'm super excited that you're both here today. I feel like I've been waiting to have this conversation for a little while. And I think now is such a great moment to have you both on as we are in this moment of sort of shifting and questioning. You know, we've been in this pandemic for a while, and we're going to get into all of that. But before we do, I wanted to just sort of turn it over to both of you to kind of share how you got to be where you are, because I think of the two of you as so not only crucial to the whole business ecosystem in Amherst and in the Valley writ large, but so wonderful in your roles. And for people out there who have not had a chance to work with you both, the focus and energy and empathy with which you come at this is always so wonderful and so supportive. So Claudia, I'm going to start with you. In a little nutshell of your journey, how did you come to head up the Amherst Area Chamber of Commerce?
I was lucky. I was really lucky to land here. You know, even now amid COVID, thinking, oh my gosh, we're working harder than ever.
Yeah.
And I do feel blessed that we're in this position to help our businesses. I was anchored in donor relations for the last 20 years,
Right.
you know, working with donors to support other nonprofits in the area that support our, you know, the gaps in our communities, the gaps that we can't meet in our communities. So, but in that process, I've worked with and developed relationships with a lot of business owners who care about our community. And so you get to see that side. And especially when you're writing grants, you know, you really develop a sense of our community as a whole. So, but I've also always worked in other communities and never really worked in Amherst, where I've lived for 26 years and owned a home for 26 years. So, yeah, so, you know, we have a business here and raised my two children here, but being at the chamber at this moment, so taking all those skills in donor relations and working in member relations is really the same. And I feel like I'm in the right place at the right time.
Oh God, yes.
It's a challenge. So
yeah, I could not.
Thanks for having us on.
Yes, yes. John, do you want to hop in with a little bit about your journey to this position?
Sure. I'm originally from Pelham and then moved to Amherst. I graduated from Amherst Regional High School and went on to UMass, where I studied business and political science. And I worked in events and catering. So I worked for UMass Dining for six and a half years, I think.
Wow.
Because I started in high school and I loved it. I loved doing the events. I became kind of the events manager, event supervisor for a lot of events on campus. But I had done it for 6 years and I was very, very comfortable. And I took a risk and for some reason, I responded to an opportunity, an internship with the chamber, and I've never left. It's been great.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That's so wonderful. And I remember, I'm going to give a little window in for people watching. I remember when you were coming up on graduation and it was a major topic about were you going to stay in the area and everyone wanted you to stay. I'm sure you're aware, but just, from business owners to local folks, everyone was like, we're going to get him here and he's going to stay forever. And it's wonderful that you decided to stay on, because I do think that your role has just continued to develop with the chamber, which is fantastic. So you're both, you know,
Yeah.
you've been in Amherst for a long time, a part of this community for a long time, which is amazing. And of course, I do want to jump into what you just touched on, Claudia, which is that in this moment, this has got to be one of the hardest moments I can imagine for a business-oriented organization, especially one that is focused so much on supporting businesses and helping businesses do what they do best. And then you get this major curveball of the pandemic. How has it been responding, pivoting? Where did you start with it in March, and where are you now?
I think those first few weeks were really us questioning, like, who are we and what are we in this process? As we closed our own doors physically to our offices, we all, you know, began working remotely very quickly and thought, who are we in this moment? And it became very quick to, we jumped to being the true resource. I said, you know, we've always focused our center around networking and bringing people together in that, you know, together, connecting, handshaking. And now we're bringing together people through resources. I think John and I, that synergy of just bringing people information as quickly as we could. I mean, we were having, and we still have the butterflies in the stomach of like, are we getting it out fast enough? Are we getting it out? But we were getting a good response. Okay, this is what people need, you know, and so it was almost like we were feeding off of what we saw the need was out there. So it was just natural that we all kind of went in that direction. And I want to say I'm thrilled at all of our area chambers. First, I think the chambers are really struggling. We are a business like everyone else. We will see revenue changes and drops, and already have begun to. Obviously, 6 months of programming has changed dramatically. So we look very different. So while we have helped everyone else process through that PPP and EIDL, we have been unable to access those for the chamber and for us to, and in a year when we were hoping to really grow, you know, our Vision 2020 had to shift. And I think a reckoning with that, you know, I think all of us, you know, as our businesses were reckoning with no commencement, and then it was students not returning, and then all of a sudden, oh, summer, now it's pushing into summer, you know, it keeps elongating. And so the challenges keep coming. And so we all kept thinking, oh, this is going to be one way, and it's been continually another. So we've been riding it. And John will tell you, I mean, he's been working nonstop. But I think the new things that have come up, all the technology that's come up of it. Amazing. So there's been a lot. So I'll let John speak.
I would totally agree with all of that. At the start, it was confusing for everyone, and everything was changing quickly. One of my main roles is preparing for events, and like Claudia said, our job is to get people to gather, and really we really talk about the value still in person-to-person contact, and so all that was removed, and so that was a huge part of what we do. So we had to pivot, and like Claudia said, we've used technology. Zoom is imperfect, but at least there's some sort of interaction, which is something businesses really need to support each other. And to that point, I think there's never been a more important time to be part of a network, part of a chamber of commerce, to be staying connected with your colleagues, with your friends, inside and outside of work, because it's a tough time. And we've pivoted, and it's been really great to support people in new ways that we never thought we would. And honestly, one of the most emotional things was when it took several months, but we were able to get PPE for most of our Amherst businesses. And when we delivered it, that was our first in-person contact with most of these folks for months, 4 or 5 months for some of them. We hadn't seen them at all. And so what was interesting is that there was a new level of trust there. There was a new level of conversation. I'd say, how are you doing? And everyone said, oh, I'm doing all right. And then we'd say, no, how are you actually doing? And they'd say, well, you know, revenues are down. And then we start to have that conversation. So it did open up some opportunities. We have to find those silver linings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on something which is so crucial, and I want to highlight it, which is that the chamber really acted before and is especially acting now as this connectivity hub. You're kind of a nucleus in Amherst, in the greater Amherst area, because you actually represent 7 towns. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think for so many business owners, maybe before they were members of the chamber and maybe they came to things sometimes, but as we've all gone more virtual, more digital, knowing that there is this space where people are keeping their minds really trained on the experience of the business owner, I got to think that it must be comforting in a way for businesses to not feel like they're out there on their own, that there is a common experience. And I don't know that helps everyone or makes it feel better or lighter for everyone, but I'm sure that there are businesses that feel better for knowing that someone else's mind is on their business, which is just
Absolutely.
incredible.
It's been such an opportunity to have really unique conversations with our business owners. And
Yeah.
you forget how personal our small business owners really are. They hire staff. Their staff is their family. Having had to let go of family members, they've had those critical decisions to make.
Yeah.
How do they reinvent their space and pivot their business, knowing that they can only bring back maybe a third, if they're lucky, of their staff. Who's that going to be? Then some staff, really respecting staff members who just had a fear of returning.
Yeah.
And also going above and beyond to ensuring safety and safe practices are in place. They have all these other new pressures. I mean, let's be honest, our small business owner profile has always been working on a shoestring. So this has now, remember those brand new shoestrings you had, your new shoes, they were tethered already. So now they're like at falling apart stage where it's really time to like go and get that new pair. And we're not there yet. That's the hard part, that we're just not there yet. And so they are, that shoestring has just become more and more fragile and more worn. So all of our programming has shifted to being educational around PPP, the consequences of those, and some of the benefits of the newer programs, unemployment, understanding unemployment. We've had a lot of personal questions and emails coming asking us for specific information. I have literally been sending those directly to the SBA or directly to our representatives. We have been in situations where we've really never been. But then again, it's pushed us to represent our businesses so much more fully. So we're really engaged with our officials weekly, feel so connected, and we know we've really got their ear and their engagement. And the second, which I would love John to talk about, is the tools. I mean, we've engaged in new technology and just new business as our businesses have. A lot of them abandoned their websites and delivery options, and all of a sudden they had to swiftly turn around and go, oh my gosh, my website really matters now. And all of a sudden, we were exploring new tools on how to reach them. And John, we just have exploded on new tools. So, we're going to come out of this stronger. I have to believe that.
Yes. And more than have to believe it, I already feel like we're all coming out of it stronger. So I think, a month ago, I would have said the same, like, I have to find the optimism and the silver lining, but I really am feeling it more now, I think. And John, Claudia is absolutely right. A big part of that is that you really wrapped your arms around some new ways to connect. You all had a list up on the website of who was open, what their hours were. I believe that was an open source tool so people could update it on their own to try and make sure that as many hands were in there keeping things up to date as possible. What other tools did you find you really engaged more when this happened?
So we tried a few things. I mean, I think our communities, the chamber, most businesses are risk averse by nature.
Yeah.
And this forced us to jump in and just try things. So right off the bat, we saw this concept, I think it was in Seattle, for a tip jar, a digital tip jar. And we launched that. It didn't take off, but for those long term, but for those first couple of weeks, it was actually pretty active. So people, everyone from barbers, hair salon stylists, restaurant, usually the service industry that
Yeah.
got hit the hardest. In those first couple of weeks, people were able to tip them, say a way of through Venmo and through PayPal, and it was a way of saying, I want to support you. I wish I could go get my haircut. I wish I could go get my meal, but since I can't, I want to do what little I can, even if it's a
Yeah.
little bit to help. And so that was good. And then open for business is what we called it. Is it was very hard, and I'll say it still is difficult to know who's open, what time, and what their procedure is. So that's something we're still working on as people have reopened, is communicating that to the customers, because customer confidence is going to be key. A lot of places have reopened. They've worked really hard to keep it safe, make sure it's safe for their customers, but then they've seen a fraction of the customers they would normally.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure people know what is open and what the protocol is. So now we have an open source document, as you mentioned, where I update it as much as I can every day, but people are able to go on there, whether it's a customer who just went there and found out something was wrong, or the owner themselves, and make a correction. And then I can just either prove it, or if it's a mistake or a typo, I can remove it.
And I have really noticed people's hours are extending. People are opening up on days they weren't open before. I want to give a shout out to Omi Omai for opening on Mondays. Thank you. I was craving that. And so is that a sign of the time, do you think, that people are finding the value in being open longer, being open an additional day? Is it sort of do you think it's a sign of something bigger recovery wise, or do you feel like it's that people are sort of more comfortable with their own operation and their own time management, or both?
I certainly hope that it is something that's longer term, because I have far thought, for example, we have some amazing tried and true restaurants, for example, and even our bookstore, really thought of unique ways to meet people where they're at. Maybe people, we have a senior community, maybe, delivering books or, having some sort of curbside pickup is still something that's really going to be valuable in the long term, and I think also, people started to think about their menu differently and offer different options and takeout options, which I almost, we were actually just beginning a very quiet marketing initiative to support businesses that didn't have a social media presence. So not only have they picked up on their, social media presence and their web presence, but they've also picked up on, okay, wait a minute, I need to target my menu a little differently, or my offerings a little bit more different, uniquely. So I really hope that they, we have to adapt, right? We continually change. The needs of our student population and their needs and wants change, so again, I think it's not just going to last. I really hope that that gives them a little bit more flexibility in terms of looking at things, like John said, being a little less risk averse on changing those menus, because we all want the tried and true, but at the same time, like, students may want something a little different, so I'm excited to see how this will change future, purchasing and buying habits, and hopefully keep them around for a little longer.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what we really want, the long term.
Yes, definitely.
I'll just make one more plug for supporting the smallest businesses, because those are the ones that are going to struggle. They don't have the same access to capital. Maybe they didn't have the relationship with that bank to get that PPP. You may not feel comfortable going out in person. That's okay. If you can buy a gift certificate, if you can order, I keep thinking of restaurants in particular, but order food, whatever you can do is helpful. I feel like I've been saying shop local for a long time, but I can't say it enough right now, is keep those dollars here and keep these folks open for a little longer, so we can get to a point where we can start rebuilding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do hope that some of the things that have arisen as good ways for businesses to get through the pandemic and bring more business in. I do hope some of them stay around because I think it does answer some of these needs for accessibility, needs for things to be, easy to pick up, whether that accessibility is based on a disability or an age or, kids in the mix and you got to just grab it and go. Right. I do hope that some of the strategies are not just for this time, but kind of carry forward. And I think, you mentioned social media. Social media, to me, I've been working with social media kind of since its inception, especially professionally, and I've noticed so many differences in how people use it now. And really in that connectivity way, which is ironic because that's really what it was for initially, but much more now around information sharing in the moment and making sure that you're able to really quickly update something maybe faster than you can update your website. And
we are doing right now.
I was just gonna ask you about that, right? Perfect segue, because so full disclosure to our audience, I am on the board of the chamber, so I do get some of the insider information. And I was going to ask you guys, what?
Thumbs up.
I could speak to that briefly. It's funny, you got to practice what you preach, right? So yes. The one positive is people who never had websites, never used social media before, even when we tried, showed them, just wasn't an interest. Totally got on that. People updated their websites, and we said, if we're encouraging that, we have to do it ourselves. So we got to follow up, practice what we preach. And so that's what we're doing right now.
Keep going with that. Tell me more about the what and the why of that.
I think the chamber has a bit of a new role, so we're changing the website a little bit to communicate what we do, because I think honestly it's very confusing between the Amherst Business Improvement District, the new foundation we formed, the chamber. We're, like you said, we support businesses in 7 communities and even beyond that. So that's confusing for people. So we're hoping to more clearly deliver our message of who we are now and where we'd like to go in the future.
Yeah.
And I think, you realize that all of a sudden, as we're writing abundant text for a new website, all of a sudden we realize there's a whole level of services that we offer that I don't think people realize, from certificates of origin for ordering and verification that people need for shipping overseas. We're used quite a bit for that. We're also used as a pass-through organization for nonprofits. We'll be hosting one shortly that we can announce. So, there's a vital role that we can play beyond in terms of the business scope. So, but I think that the relationship for the chamber is always been, connect with us. Our email's open to everyone. There's been a lot of misconception out there, especially right now with our programming. Our programming is open to everyone in the business community, whether you're a member or not. And so we just encourage everyone. If you know a business owner I just received an email from someone who said, I have a business owner that I know is struggling. I don't know if she's connected with you. I said, please put that person in touch with me directly so we can connect and get them to the right resources. We hosted a business community check-in. I'm hoping to do that monthly. And it's really just an informal setting where business owners can connect around the challenges, the messaging, the hiring, the filings, whatever it is that they're struggling with, the paperwork, it's a lot. We have a history with meeting with businesses, and especially new businesses launching, who don't have a marketing budget. Because I always say, well, do you have a marketing budget? And can you make the chamber a priority in your marketing budget? And a lot of small businesses may not have that marketing budget, right? And we all know that. And we all struggle with that. We want to push as much as we can and stretch it. So, it's really an opportunity for people to see who we are and what we do. And right behind me, my screen is our Amherst area, sort of our upgraded. It's not the full version. There's still our orange, our signature orange, a little bit more blue in it. But I think the idea, the arrow is a C, and it talks about, connection, that we're a catalyst, and we're about community, but we're also about commerce. But it points to, I love that it points to our Amherst area. that we are highly focused on supporting the members of our Amherst area. So I feel like we were, as a board, and we've had these conversations, I was almost ready to just abandon, we had all kinds of new designs. And I think we all felt like, oh my goodness, our chamber has really become such an anchor during that time. And it felt like abandoning it wasn't the time. Like the A+ really mattered right now, more than ever, probably. So we thought, okay, maybe this really isn't the time to, we're really so wrapped on our A+, vision of A+ education, A+, area. So let's keep going with that.
Yeah.
One thing that a phrase we're using early on, it might be a bit cheesy, but we haven't been using it much lately, is even though our door is physically closed, our door is always open.
Yeah.
So please reach out about anything. If we don't have the answer or the resource, we will connect you with the person that does.
Right.
That is what the chamber is. That is what we do. So even if our door is physically closed right now, it's always open for our folks here in the community.
Yeah. And you guys, you are really sort of the proverbial extra set of hands for people, which I think is so wonderful. And especially, marketing is a really crucial topic, I think, because marketing is something that in the last, I don't know, couple decades, I would even say, it's become more and more a huge part of what you have to think about as a business owner. And so having that connectivity, and I'm going to reiterate what you said, Claudia, about how your events are open to everyone. You don't have to be a member to go to an event, to meet people, especially for new businesses coming in. And I know we were talking when you hopped on right before we went live that we have a new business coming into the Mill District.
Yay, we're
so exciting.
Welcome, Provisions.
Provisions is coming to this side of the bridge, which is so exciting. They are going to be opening first in the space that Atkins was formerly occupying, what we lovingly call the Cow Palace internally, while we build out a space in the new North Square buildings for them to really be an anchor there. So for new businesses coming in, and this actually is a two-part question a little bit that I'm curious about, especially with businesses that are part of the Northampton ecosystem as well. And we see a lot of businesses that like to be on both sides of the bridge because that bridge can sometimes feel like a little bit of a barrier, whole other topic. When you think about new businesses coming in, what feels most important to introduce them, to kind of bring them into your fold? And then also, I'm so curious how you work with the other chambers in the area, because there are quite a few. I probably don't even know all of them. Of course, I'm familiar with Northampton, but I know there's one in the kind of Springfield Chicopee area. You had a great event down there at Mercedes-Benz of Springfield in the fall. God, I can't even keep track of time anymore.
That was our last event.
That was your last event. It was a great one, though. That was fun. It was like
the way to go out with a bang.
It was awesome.
Well, and that was a networked event. That was actually a co-sponsored event. So if I can answer your question, John's going to laugh, but this is my new mantra, that the bridge is let's not consider the bridge something that divides us, but that connects us.
Absolutely.
And I really feel strongly about that. There are so many businesses that share both chambers, the Greater Northampton Chamber and Greater East Hampton Chamber. And I are on an RTC, the Regional Tourism Council, which provides tourism dollars to our community and helps us get the word out about Visit Hampshire County. So please follow Visit Hampshire County and also Other Side MA on Instagram. It's not active as much right now because tourism is just at a different place right now, but it is a unified effort. We do an incredible work together, and we have co-sponsored so many events in the past. And one of them was the Mercedes event. Mercedes is a member of all of us, and so just a perfect natural fit. And they brought in even Springfield chambers and so forth. So I think we had 5 organizations hosting that event. It was fantastic, but it was a true showcase of how partnership really works.
Yes.
And people said to me they saw people they hadn't seen in years or reconnected. And that's what, we're a small region. We are connected in many ways. So even when we did the Lady B event last year, which we would have done I believe on the 15th, we would have been doing that this year. We're really missing it because we knew it was going to be bigger than ever, but we partnered with the South Hadley Chamber, and it's just obviously not happening right now, but I think that those are vital moving forward. And just as the Relief and Resiliency Grant, micro grant fund with our own bid, our work with the bid has been really just hands down the best relationship and the most flourished in this whole pandemic, and really a silver lining. And I want to give a shout out to Gabrielle Gould, who was on already, of the Improvement District, our partner in crime, who had the forethought of developing a foundation with the hopes of Destination Amherst, which is what we were all talking about before this hit.
Yes.
I got a little pushback. I heard some folks be like, well, we do want to see us become that destination, and we don't want to give up on capital projects. Capital projects are jobs. Unfortunately, a lot of those have gone at this point. The dream of that is definitely on hold. But we felt like we had a little window with the relief and resiliency grants, and that was because of a partnership that we opened our minds and hearts to. So I feel like if you don't do that, we don't benefit our businesses in the best possible way. And I think John can talk a little bit about how that they joined us saying, okay, can we at least make that Amherst wide, because they are really Amherst downtown focused. And so that really felt good to us. But we also then we're still worried about our other communities. So we had some other good ideas on how to find partnerships to make that happen. So I'll let John share.
I think another one of these silver linings is in emergencies, people do come together, and we're stronger together. And as a region, as Western Mass, politically, economically, we're stronger as a region, and it makes more sense to function that way. I think that barriers that had been erected for years came down. Once we had to solve problems, we have solved problems faster than I've ever seen happen, with municipalities, with the state, with other fellow organizations. It's just complicated things. And you know what? Everyone is working really hard, but collaboration like I've never seen before, cooperation like I've never seen before. Just people we hadn't even, we'd been wanting to work with, but just never got around to it. All of a sudden, we're all on the same page. We're all trying to help each other out. And that has been really good. Claudia mentioned something else, and I don't remember what it was. So.
Oh, the CDBG, the support we're giving in other communities.
Yes. So, one of the great things that we're doing is, it's amazing. Even a little micro grant can help sustain a business a little bit longer.
Yes.
And so the Downtown Amherst Foundation, which was started for a different purpose. We started the Relief and Resiliency micro grant program through them. We raised over $300,000.
$320,000 to date.
Wow.
Yeah. So
From individuals,
at least 300,000 was community donations. That was private funds, people pouring out all sorts of amounts. And we were able to pass that on to businesses that were struggling. And they were incredibly thankful for even a little micro grant. But CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, that the CARES Act provided some money for micro enterprise funding. Sometimes it funds micro enterprise assistance like coaching, but these are grants. So almost all of our communities, Sunderland is working with Greenfield. Amherst, we're working with Valley CDC. We're going to have a CDBG grant program coming up very soon. And all Franklin County, Greenfield, and then Hadley's working with East Hampton. And again, we collaborated with all these people as a region. That's never happened before, but we figured out how to best serve the towns by each going a different direction. And so that's an example of successful regional working together. All the towns in our region have access to this at this point. So that's really a success.
And there's a lot of dry, boring work behind it, like, writing letters of support and submitting everything. And that's the stuff that keeps us up late at night. Like, did we get the letter in on time? And, but But it feels really good to be able to be working this collaboratively with
Yeah.
so many groups on so many grants and different initiatives that again just has open doors and blurred lines, which I really love.
Yeah.
It just has happened naturally.
I remembered what it was with provisions. Now that happening, which is so awesome.
So awesome.
And then Claudia mentioned moving forward on some of our previous goals.
Oh yeah.
Our message has been clear that public health is the #1 priority.
Yes.
If businesses have to close again, it will be permanently for many of our businesses. And so that's our #1 priority. But that doesn't mean during this time, we shouldn't be thinking about the future. So
Right.
even though we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, we've initiated conversations. Senator Eric Lesser is working on kind of the economic recovery here in Massachusetts, while our Senator Joe Comerford is leading the public health side of it. So we have a really strong team out here. But we're already engaged in conversations trying to brainstorm and think of ideas for a year from now, 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Can't abandon that work. Even if it's going to have to change, I think we have to keep that work forward. I think the dining outside, honestly, in downtown Amherst is a great example of collaboration and not abandoning previous goals. In fact, finding how they work in this new normal.
Yeah.
And expediting them.
Yes.
And making it happen fast.
That is such a crucial point, I think. That's a crucial point. And I feel like you all are really sort of in that expeditious conversation of, how do we meet all these needs quickly? Because you all are not only a connection point for the businesses themselves in their own bubble, but you're a connection point between businesses. You mentioned the town, politicians and everybody working for the town, for landlords, for, the banks, for all the different, I think about the chamber board and who's on the chamber board and all the updates that we get. I mean, there are so many different businesses, services, people meeting in this place of figuring out how to meet needs and meet them quickly, which has not always, if we're being super honest, quickness has not always been the easiest thing at a municipal level. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, let alone when you get to a state level, things have traditionally slowed down, and you all have really found ways to kind of keep things moving forward at a pace that meets the moment. And I know it's because everyone kind of has a mind to that, but are there ways that you have found processes can get a little bit quicker that you think will be maintained after this time? That's a big question.
That's a big one. It's still tricky. I think we always have to be careful, but I think I'm really hoping it opens eyes to, I firstly want to say that our town has been very open to meeting with us weekly. I think there's power in numbers. It's the bid and the chamber and us working together with the town. A lot of the times it's us pushing, saying, let's do this, let's do that, we'll support it, we'll do the work. We just want it to happen. So meanwhile, we just gave ourselves a whole nother, week's worth of work. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're here about supporting our businesses and, whatever it takes right now. And I do feel like we have been respectful of process, but that we have pushed. I feel like we pushed, and I do believe, and I don't want to name any entity, but I feel like in terms of town council or, it's really about how do we make ourselves even more open to business. When I look at someone like John, who I want to say, hey, I want you to stay here. I want your talent to stay here and rise. Right? And we all benefit from you staying here. And I know we're a better business community for it, but there are many more like John, who graduated here, and we want you to stay here. So how do we keep this momentum pushing? And again, opening our eyes and minds to, okay, have we had a reputation of being bad for business? And I don't want to put that out and say, yes, we have, or no, we haven't, but to question everything.
Yes.
And to, really succinctly question everything and to reposition ourselves to be ready, because my feeling is when we come out of this, we need to be more ready than ever to say to somebody who has a new business like you're doing with Visions, you already have a space. We're going to have empty storefronts. There's no question.
Yeah.
And that's just a sad part of this, reality that we're desperately trying to hang on to. But I do feel like it's going to, and it will, and anyone who sees some empty storefronts and sees a favorite business go out of business, I think will also force our hand in terms of how we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's
John, you want to add?
Well, I just think that COVID suddenly made everything on the table. Lines of communications were opened, but also we tried that and it didn't work at every level within our own organization and outside. That was wiped away. Town manager of Amherst, Paul Bockleman, had started in January saying, let's have a bias for action prior to this developing the way it did. And I think that's a significant change for our area, and I hope that it continues. Bias for action. Let's try things. Claudia knows personally. I want things very organized, very certain way. That's not always how I think, but at this point, given the circumstances, we have to try things that we haven't tried before, and that's one positive thing that's come out of this.
And I want to apologize publicly to John. I'm always, John, don't we want to try this? John, don't we want to do this? And he's like, no. And then we say, wait a minute, we want to be yes first. And
when we do, it's always awesome. So that's to you, Claudia.
I think we want to be yes first. I think it's not yes, it's how. It's not no, and it's not yes, but it's how. Have we looked at every opportunity, and how would that make us better, stronger, smarter, faster, more efficient, and drive our economy?
Absolutely. I love that bias for action. And Shalini is on here cheering for that as well. I think that's a slogan that we're going to certainly adopt. I've not heard it worded that way before, and I think that's so awesome. Yeah. And I want to also share, Shalini posted a comment, Amherst needs to know the positive impact you both have had on so many aspects of our lives. Thank you, Mill District Oshore, for showcasing the work of our most amazing Amherst Chamber. And I couldn't agree more. And I want to encourage everyone watching, Shalini is always my champion when she hops on and comments and questions. But everyone out there watching, please feel free to put some questions on. We don't have a ton of time left, so don't be shy. Please put some questions on there for Claudia and John, and we will talk about them here. And I'm like still caught up in bias for action, and I'm really excited, John, by what you said. It's one of my least favorite things. I don't usually get negative. It's one of my least favorite things when, an idea comes up and people say, oh, we tried that. 20 years ago, we tried that. 5 years ago, we tried that. Because one thing I think this pandemic has sort of brought to light is that things are always shifting and changing. I mean, we feel it so intensely right now, but that's always true. We're always a new community, even if it feels like, Amherst has been the same for X number of years. That's not accurate, right? There's always new ideas. There's always new energy kind of moving in. And so the more we open up to these ideas or giving things a try, or even trying something we tried before to see how different it might be, that feels so valuable. And I think one of the things coming out of this conversation that I am super excited about and just want to kind of share my gratitude for you bringing it to the forefront is that, I grew up in the Valley. I first 12 years in Belchertown and then in Northampton until I was 18, went away to college. I have that whole story. And when I came back a couple of years ago, I was really blown away at how there were still very siloed operations going on between towns. A friend of mine called it the New England village mentality, where you're just very focused on your town and what you need. Resources, we all know, are often scarcer in Western Mass than Eastern Mass. And so we all sort of keep an eye on those resources. And the level of collaboration that you all are talking about experiencing now just fills me with so much excitement and joy, because you know, I hate that it took a pandemic like this, but I also think that we as human beings are somewhat experienced in it taking something big and often hard to push us forward in how we work together.
Yeah.
And, you know, we would all love to say that human beings are great at that no matter what, but unfortunately it's through adversity often that we recognize that we're missing an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I really hear you both saying that there have been some opportunities that you've seized on and that you're really continuing to move forward with, which is so exciting.
You know, there's an interesting twist. We talk, you know, right now our whole community is engaged around reopening
Yeah.
and reopening of our schools, whether it's, you know, our public schools or reopening of our universities and colleges and the return of students en masse. And I know about 40% of on-campus students are returning for UMass. And, you know, I know it brings and raises a lot of concerns. I know that for all our businesses, they are trying desperately to hang on to their businesses. Students and families coming back is great for them, but they want everyone to follow safety protocols. The mask mandate was definitely something put in place because they really wanted it. They really, you know, and less burden on them to have to ask every single person to wear a mask. So I implore everyone watching, please wear your mask and help our businesses. Don't make them ask you. And also if you see something, conversely, if you see something that you're not sure, you know, if you could gently nudge that owner or that person, you know, in that who was working there. If you see something else, you know, I think it's just incumbent on each individual to do what they can and do their best. But at the same time, I was talking to UMass, and the IELTS program, the Institute for Applied Life Sciences at UMass, is actually working on some incredible testing agent that actually has been used at Willie Dickinson. And so what is exciting is that our own technology might actually help us provide more rapid testing. And so that's the beauty of us being a research institution and a research community, right? So it's the push-pull. Once again, I hear this and I had chills thinking, oh, this is exactly who we are. And, you know, we are not major manufacturers, but we are manufacturers of the mind here. You know, we are, oh, I just made that up.
Oh, yeah.
But we are, you know, that's the beauty of, you know, our surroundings is we're an educational, you know, an academic based community. And that's where the science is going to come. And, and despite it all, whether the students come back, you know, whatever our feelings are on this, there's still devastated budgets. There's still layoffs and more layoffs to come. Yeah. So we have to brace ourselves. This is not over by any means. I don't want to end on a negative, but I think that, you know, and I do want to implore, I'm going to make a plug for the Relief and Resiliency Microgrant Fund because we are not done yet. Yeah. And I do fear we're going to have another round of grants. We are working on securing another major gift that might, you know, and if we can get another infusion, we'd love to get that matched by our donors. So if you have not given to the Relief and Resiliency Fund microgrant, it's downtownamherstfoundation.org. You can find it on the chamber page, the bid page. So please give us a shout out and tell your friends and family, share widely your Amherst and UMass and Hampshire alumni because, you know, they love this community. They love the businesses in this community. And, you know, I fear that, you know, we're just as a result of the general economy, even taking students returning or not out of the equation, that is a likelihood. And, you know, we are smiles today because we're so happy to be with you, but we also understand, you know, the real challenge here, and jobs are still, we have some of the highest unemployment in the state right here in Amherst.
Really?
So just so you know. So we are going to experience some really incredible issues. So I don't want to minimize that, you know, but so we will take the small wins, like getting provisions, especially, you know, right. Full disclosure, I'm in North Amherst. So, but at the same time, we also have to be really cognizant of what's happening.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So coming through for me, Shalini does have a question, so I'm going to share it with you both. She asks, what are the intentions of the chamber in this time period, especially as we confront racial inequities? And what is the role you think that different stakeholders can play, including town council? So those are two big questions. And I did, before we ended, I did want to talk about, and I'll let you talk about it, but as a board member, I've had the opportunity to be on a committee that has just started with the chamber called the Equity Task Force. So let me turn it over to you. Another really big challenge of this time right now that I think has come out is certainly a much closer look at how we in our communities face inequities that impact all of us. So I'm curious too how that hits you both as you put on yet another hat of helping not only business owners but other community members navigate these challenges.
John, I'll take the equity lens, you take the town council lens. And I'll just go with the equity. The equity piece is something that's always been near and dear to my, it's not something new.
Right.
Certainly in the long history of my work, I've done education to homelessness and recovery. So I've always tried to bring that lens through our board development and our ambassadors. I agree that we have a lot of work to do defining diversity amongst our chamber. You and I had these discussions, Hannah, on that committee. What does diversity really mean? We're thinking about doing an internal survey. So we have a lot moving forward to develop. We still have to develop our own internal statement. But at the same time, we had already started our diversity programming last year. Kishore Parmar, who's on our board, who is an owner of the Pioneer Valley Hotel Group, felt strongly. He was so passionate about the issue, had hosted it for us back in the fall of 2019. We had started women's programming, and certainly more recently we had been trying to figure out how to support naming our minority-owned businesses and hadn't really come up with a solution. And again, COVID kind of forced it a little bit. And we found, again, with these open shared source documents, that this was the best way for our businesses to self-identify, whether you are a woman-owned business or however you would like to identify as an owner, that we have that out there because people really do want to support specific businesses. And we want to see that support, and we want to see that support grow. I just want to say we have a lot of work to do as a community. I think we say one thing, but we act another. And we're all culpable in that. And I think that there's great work in an intention right now. And I hope that we can put that to act moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will reiterate that plug. We have another list, lots of lists, specifically highlighting businesses that are owned by people of color, that are women owned, that are queer owned. And we've been getting a lot of requests for those type of businesses, but we don't ask those types of questions typically. And we are not always connected with all of those circles, which is something that we're working on as an organization. So I will send that list around again. I will give it again to you, Hannah, but the more folks that want to add themselves to that list, you do not need to be a chamber member. We're saying Amherst area, but really there's some folks from Northampton on there. Let's just get these folks on this list because people want to support local and they want to support people of color, business owners in this time. So that is a positive, and that list hopefully will continue to grow. For town council, I guess without getting too philosophizing too much, this is a really hard time. And anything we can do to not sow fear. I think specifically with the schools reopening, there's a lot of fear, and it's a legitimate fear. But anything we can do to just support one another and send that message loud and clear that we're all trying to do the best that we can do. And so any way to send that message, and then a challenge to town council, to ourselves is, we've always talked about outreach. We reach the same group of people. We reach 10,000 people, but it's the same 10,000 people. How do we break out of that? I think government has that problem. I think chambers struggle with that. And that's a question I don't have the answer to, but a challenge I pose to anybody out there, including the town council, is how to achieve that genuine, true outreach, not just the usual suspects.
Yeah, yeah, that is such a crucial point, and I really appreciate and want to reiterate your point about not sowing fear, because there is a line, and it is fine between being aware of what the issues are, what the dangers are, what the challenges are, but there are ways to go about it and talk about it that don't feel like, sometimes fear can be that anti-action. Fear can be something that is paralyzing, even when we feel like we're just staying informed. And so finding the balance of being informed, talking about things, being very honest about what those challenges are without using fear as a tactic to either, prove a point or get your way in something, I think is a really wonderful thing to bring in. And visibility, when what I hear us talking about, and what we definitely talk about on the task force, is that visibility is a huge factor in inequity when we think about it. I mean, the amplification of voices, of stories, of approaches to things, how we go about business. I know we've had some internal conversations already about how, accessibility is a big thing, making sure that chamber members and potential chamber members are approached not only online, but also in person. You guys do an amazing job of, showing up in person, having paper forms people can fill out if digital doesn't work. And then also we had a conversation recently about recognizing that not everybody needs the same thing from a chamber, and really understanding what the differences are in different kinds of businesses, and being able to speak to owners where they are and make sure that they're hearing something that they say, oh, that is a resource that speaks to me. That is an approach that speaks to me. You do understand what it's like to have a multi-generational family business where all the employees are also members of your family. And, that's a different thing than when you're hiring outside or you're hiring mostly students. Those little differences or big differences in the makeup of your business, you guys have to find a way, and I think you are finding the way, to speak to all of that and to make sure that you're being heard where someone is listening, which can be really, really different. So I just think you all are doing such a wonderful job, especially with all the tools, of making sure that not only can customers find different businesses, but different business owners can find you and can find different customer bases sometimes as well through that. And you guys are going to have to go on our Facebook after this, because Shalini's over here just cheering and shouting out so many things you've said. She threw out one of my crucial topics, human-centered design, which is also a really wonderful thing, and universal design when we talk about placemaking and we talk about tactical urbanism. All right, Shalini has to go back to work. She said, lovely to see all of you positive change agents. Shalini, you are
Awesome.
She's the best.
Thank you,
I feel like
Shalini.
she's just in the conversation with us.
Thank you, Shalini. She always is. She's been an amazing partner and business owner and town council member extraordinaire. She's been amazing.
Right.
Very responsive and supportive.
That's the encouragement we need, and that's the encouragement everyone needs, especially our business owners right now. So
yes, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm just making sure I'm not missing any questions here. Awesome. Yeah, so I want to get you both kind of back to your day, because I know you have so much going on. But in closing, I'm curious if there's anything we haven't touched on. I know there's a mountain of things we haven't touched on, but anything in particular that either of you want to share or put out there before we hop off and you get back to your really busy.
I do. I have a couple things. Firstly, I just want to thank you. Please, everyone, go head on down to the Mill District. Get your hair done. I saw Cinda shopping. She and I bumped into one another getting Lift Salon outside, and they're new members. So please support our small businesses, buy gift cards, buy, How about, if your students are coming back and you want to send them something, that's a great way to support them, get them a gift card, they can do takeout. But, I just want to thank you. I think that we're here for our businesses. We want to support you. And even if you've never been part of the chamber or you were a long time ago, you may find it a little different than you left it. So, so please, reach out to us, amherstarea.com. And I hate to sound like a commercial, but I will.
Oh, whatever.
I'm proud of us. And we're about to launch a new website this month. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, John. But it's been an amazing road and we're not done yet. We're here for you always. And as I say, we're always in your corner.
Yeah.
I was going to steal it from you. Now I have to think of something else. I can't say shop local enough. I can't stress that enough. And the other simple concept that the chamber is one of those support systems that is there for you as well. For employers, employees, community members, we want to hear from you, and we can often direct you to the resources you need. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. That is so crucial. And yes.
And stay tuned for our events. We do have some events coming up. We have an amazing golf tournament, social distance edition, really keeping it safe. It's our only in-person event this year. So please check it out. Cold Spring Harbor, again, amherstarea.com. We're going to have a bingo Rita, so look for it in your newspaper. Check it out in place of traditional margarita madness. And it's a great way to support a local business. So you can stay tuned for that. Be on the lookout for that. And again, we're here to support our businesses and all our longtime margarita sponsors. Steve Lewis Subaru has been an amazing partner, and they are our presenting sponsor. Stay tuned for a drive-in outdoor movie night, perhaps a double feature coming. So stay tuned, and hopefully working toward our virtual A+ award. So
I was going to say, that reminds me of one more thing, is our annual A+ awards. The nominations have been open for quite a while. I will send that link out again, but if you know somebody who's really being a hero right now, there's a variety of different awards we give, highlighting people's work in the Amherst area. So if you go on there, if somebody's the right fit, definitely nominate them, because that is coming up really quick.
We're going to need something positive to celebrate. And there's been a lot of positive.
Absolutely. I know it's exciting to have, some in-person events, figuring out how to do some events online. I'm so glad that you guys have continued to try and figure that out, because it does bring hope when people get to look forward to something. And I just think you two have done such an extraordinary job of pivoting, of being responsive. I know for us in the Mill District, you mentioned the lift very quickly. I think that's a great example of how businesses can try and sort of shake it up. The lift realized that not a lot of people wanted to come inside a salon. And what if there was a space outside? And so we've really been working with them to create that outdoor space. It's ideas like those that I think you all, you inspire in people, you make suggestions, you offer support. So businesses out there, whether you're a member or not, though I highly recommend being a member, because it really just gives you an anchor. It gives you a feeling of being part of something, of having those extra hands on deck. How many boat metaphors can I bring in? That was totally unintentional, but really, the chamber just does such incredible work, and John and Claudia are here for you, and they are on your side, in your corner, in a way that I think is just unbelievable. I'm constantly awed by it, and I think it's so wonderful. And I will reiterate and also add a little bit to what you say, John, about shopping local, which is without going, too deep into the question of students coming back or not, which I know is a very controversial thing, but for everyone out there who, is part of that, just remember that the students coming back is also crucial to local business owners. So, thinking about the stance you take and recognizing that shopping local is a huge part of what will help business owners sustain, especially if students don't come back. So just remember that shopping local is more than just a slogan. It is actually really, really, really imperative. So the next time you're headed to somewhere that's not local, maybe turn around and come back and see if you can get it in your community, because there's so many wonderful businesses. So John and Claudia, Thank you so much. You two are
you.
just phenomenal.
Thank you for hosting, and please send our best to Cinda, and also
Yes.
we'll see you at Jake's at the Mill or Amherst House of Pizza, somewhere down
I'm
there.
sure we will.
Absolutely. And soon
Maybe at the Harp. We might cross
Oh,
paths.
the Harp, the lift. Yes, you can get Kiss at Hammer and Stain. There's so much happening in the district. It's really exciting. So thank you both for
Thank
everything.
you for having us and giving it like wind in our sails. But you and Shalini today, it's like wind in our sails. So we will take that and we will get back to work.
Perfect. See you on the seas.
All right.
Ahoy.
Bye, guys.
Bye now.